Here.
Reckon.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Scott.
Here.
Waters.
Here. Could we stand for a moment of silent prayer followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, please? Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Jim, would you like to bring Karen up to the microphone? We have a commendation, look nice in the paper, very good. Reads, whereas you're to be commended for taking the time, the initiative, and the effort to create a beautiful yard that contributes greatly to your neighborhood and to the city of Sioux City. And whereas you should be proud of the work you've done and the beauty you have created, and whereas we thank you for allowing our citizens to enjoy your beautiful yard and for teaching by example the merits of beautification in the community. Now therefore I, Robert E. Scott, Mayor of the City of Sioux City, Iowa, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby commend Bob and Karen Beston for exhibiting the pride of ownership and being named the recipient of the Sioux City Yard of the Month Award. I'd like to congratulate
Thank you very much.
You can say a few words and then Jim will present something to you,
Thanks
okay?
for the Billy Bars, too. That was very nice of you.
I think this is a great program. I was on, the Heights is an outstanding neighborhood that is tough to match no matter where you go in the United States. And I don't think the city of Sioux, or the people of Sioux City really appreciate it like they should, but I am honored to live in it and preserve it for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank
Did a
you.
great job.
Thank you.
Hey, wait a minute.
On behalf of the Yard of the Month Committee, I'd like to congratulate you. On behalf of the Sioux City Neighborhood Network, I'd like to present you the check.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. We move on to the consent agenda, which is items 2 through 7A today. You can consider them to have passed unanimously unless a council member asks for a vote. If you have an item you want to speak to, please state your name and address for the record. And if you have something not on the agenda, come up at the end under citizen concerns. I'll move the consent agenda.
Second.
2 is reading of the city council minutes of July 10th, 2017. 3 is a resolution awarding a purchase order to JC Industries for the purchase of an Evaqua Drive assembly for the wastewater treatment plant. 4 is actions relating to agreements and contracts. A is a resolution approving amendment number 1 to the consulting service agreement with JEO Consulting for the Cone Park splash pad improvements. B is a resolution approving modification number 1 to the 2080 agreement with the IDPD for the deck sheaths runway 1331 repair project at the Sioux Gateway Airport. 5 are actions relating to property. A is a resolution proposing to sell a portion of a vacated east-west alley abutting 1407 Rebecca Street, the petitioner's BC Properties. B is a resolution proposing to sell property, part of the vacated east-west alley abutting 811 Newton Street, petitioners Dave J. and Kathleen L. Bertrand. Staff requests a motion to amend this item. You want to?
Sure, I can jump in, Mayor and Council. Originally, this was noticed and sold back in June for only one half of the alley. However, the other abutting property owner declined to purchase the other half. So it's going to one purchaser. So we're asking to amend it to include the full alley in the purchase for today and rescind the previous resolution, which was only for one half of the alley. And I'll ask Jeff if there's anything additional, and that's it.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Call the roll on that, please.
Reckon.
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
Scott.
Abstain?
Waters.
Aye.
Capron.
Aye.
No, it's in the regular consent agenda, so that's all we have to do.
Correct.
6 are appointments to boards, commissions, and committees. A is a motion appointing Angie Snyderman to the Airport Board of Trustees for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. B is a motion appointing Rita DeYoung to the Airport Board of Trustees for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. C is a motion reappointing Noel Jacobs to the Airport Board of Trustees for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. D is a resolution appointing Jim Young to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. City Council waives the policy that no person shall serve more than 2 consecutive terms. E is a motion appointing Adam Fullerton to the Historic Preservation Commission for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. F is a motion appointing Steele Welcher to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020. G is a resolution appointing Tracy Winters to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term expiring June 30th, 2020, replacing Erica Worrell. H is a motion appointing Mary Day to the Human Rights Commission for a 3-year term expiring June 2020, replacing Shirley McLeod. 7 are applications for beer and liquor license. See the list, come forward if you have any questions. Anyone to be heard on any of those items? You're voting electronically? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm hitting it, but it's still flashing.
Call the roll, please.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
8 is a hearing and resolution assessing a $1,500 civil penalty or a 30-day suspension against Sarge's Mini Mart, 2329 West 2nd Street for violation of the Iowa cigarette laws. I'll move it.
Second.
Heidi, I'm pushing it.
Okay, let's just call,
Sorry.
yep, let's just call it the rest of the day.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
9 is a hearing and resolution withdrawing the $1,500 civil penalty or 30-day suspension against Buy E-Cig and Vape Lounge 3407 Sigging Hills Boulevard for violation of the Iowa cigarette laws. I'll move that. Call the roll, please.
Scott,
Aye.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore.
Aye.
10 is an ordinance amending the chapter 10.94 of the municipal code by offering free parking for the first hour in city-owned parking ramps. I'll move that.
Second.
Is there a request for deferral?
Oh, motion to defer till August 7th. I'm sorry. I'll move the deferral. Sorry about
Second.
that.
Second.
Waters,
Aye.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye. 11's motion accepting the recommendation of the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for the Cook Park improvements deferred from June 26, 2017.
Mayor and Council, Matt Salvatore, Parks and Recreation Director. We have several of our park board members here today. We might have a couple more trickling in. They still have a strong desire to move forward with the splash pad project. We have not had a meeting since the last time that we spoke about this item back on June 26th. But I don't think there would be any opposition to moving forward with the basketball courts and futsal courts now and working on the splash pad project in the spring. So that's something that we can discuss. We also have Daniel Ford here who can give some perspective on the park. He operates Beyond the Bell at Cook Park several times a week, and he's got some ideas and some thoughts he can share on the splash pad and the park in general if you would like to visit with him. So, and on behalf of the park board, I think the best thing that we can do for that park is provide a positive presence. So, you know, we're looking at up to 3 different improvements here by having some positive things take place at that park. Hopefully that combats some of the negative things that takes place there. So with that, I can open it up to Danny or anybody else that has any questions.
Matt, while he's coming up, can I ask you what steps have been taken to secure the splash pad?
So the plan for the splash pad itself, if we move forward with that, we would plan to fence it. So it'd be also a lockable fence, but the splash pad itself would be on a timer. So it would start at 10 o'clock in the morning, shut off at 8 o'clock at night. And then on 2 sides, we would have a privacy screen. So we'd have privacy to the shelter and towards the skateboard park. So it would just be open to the street on 2 sides and have some privacy on 2 other sides of the splash pad.
So those items are in the plan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
They would be in the plans and specifications for the project if we move forward.
Okay, thank you.
And restrooms at all too, where do we end on that as far as the restrooms that are in the park versus we were talking about utilizing the building and some of the restrooms that were there right now for the pool?
I would have a little bit of concerns with trying to utilize the existing bathhouse just because it's so large. People would have a tendency to
Yeah.
hide and hang out in there. I think the smaller restroom that's there would be a better use, better fit for the splash pad. That's
So
just
can
my
we still
opinion.
utilize the plumbing or utilities that are at the wash house right now?
There's already bathrooms out there is what he's saying.
Yeah. So I don't see a need to,
Who's the other ones that we saw when we drove?
correct, when you and I did our tour here recently, I would utilize those bathrooms versus keeping the bathhouse.
Well, along that same line, before Daniel gets going, part of what we talked about, there were several ladies who were here at that last meeting, they talked about, they expressed concerns about the transients, drug dealers, vandalism, garbage, making sure the restrooms are working. I haven't seen anything that addressed any of the issues or concerns since we talked about it here.
Well, and Alex and I actually went on a tour there the very next day after that was brought up. So at the meeting, they said there was only 2 trash cans and they're always full. Well, there was 5 trash cans and they were empty. The garbage cycle is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So those garbage cans are getting emptied 3 times a week. The bathrooms have been vandalized in the past, but they've been retrofitted or converted in a way that deters vandalism. They're decent bathrooms. I mean, the people in Leeds would be killing for the exact same bathrooms that Cook has. So, it's a very functional restroom. It's similar to Sertoma Grandview. Didn't see major concerns there. You'll know go out at night that very next day, and all the security lights are working. So I believe all those issues have been concerned. They weren't an issue to begin with. But, the transients, the drug use. that's another
Yeah,
thing.
I don't know if the police are doing anything or not
I know-
regarding those issues. Have you had any conversation with them?
I have not, but Daniel can give his perspective on that.
Yeah, I always.
Daniel,
well,
can you
first,
state your name and address, please, first?
Daniel Ford, 3435 Jackson Street, Sioux City, Iowa.
Not everybody knows you like I do.
The best city to live in.
This is Jim Morton's other brother from his other mother. Go ahead.
What I was going to say was that I agree with all the direction that Matt is proposing, with just a few additionals, which Matt has added those, the fence, which was one of my concerns. Just don't want people, and it don't necessarily have to go all the way to the top, but enough that people just don't have vision right in. And I think for all the splash parks, I went to all the ones around the city because I just wanted to see how they all laid out and cook. And the one in Riverside is beautiful. I don't know who laid that one out, but that is a beautiful situation over there. I think that we have to have, in all of those places, we have kids out there. I think with officers on different shifts and rotations, why can't someone go through there every now and then at these splash parks and just sit there for a few minutes, do a little paperwork, keep moving, keep some presence? I think for all the splash parks. And if we eventually do one in Cook Park, I think that would really be necessary. More than it is today. They got to come through. My other concern is the driveway for the public workers. I think we got to address that somehow so they don't drive in there. They driving in now behind Land Production when they play basketball. Cook is a basketball park. I went out there last Saturday. There was over 150 people out there. They're running some basketball leagues now where they're coming in. This is going to be awesome. But we got to put some checks and balances. They drive in there now. We got to get that under control. They can't be driving down in that driveway because then we can't get emergency vehicles in there if we really had to have that happen. So I think those 2 checkpoints will have to be in place. What about trash cans? There's trash barrels out there. I'm in that park every day. There are those barrels out there, and they don't beat full all the time. So I don't know where that came from. Someone's working a different issue. I'm in that park 5 days a week. So I see what goes on in that park. The presence of our police department would be great. That would really help everything. If that was added, I think the splash park later on is the right way to go, get the basketball court in. Now, the soccer guys, I hate to say this, most of those guys don't even live in Sioux City. I'm just saying, their license plates are Nebraska. And I live in Sioux City. I love Sioux City. I like my friends over in Nebraska, but That foot soccer group, they need to show me some license plates that say Sioux City, Iowa, because I'd be out there and I see those guys. And, my concern gonna be though, for my program, is that they're gonna be closer to me now, and they're gonna think I'm their bathroom service. And we run into that a lot of time, because I'm in the park 5 days a week during the winter season. So I think we gotta be clear on that. And the other thing is there any way in the future, when the splash park comes, that it can say some kind of language that this park is designed for age group such and such? Not to say that you can't be older than that, but it would really help at all those splash parks. I think if we had some language, not to discriminate anybody, but say these parks are designed for a age group.
What age do you think?
I can't just throw a number out there, but I'm just saying, there's got to be some, maybe the sign won't stop everybody, but there's some decent people who would look at that and say, oh, they got this designed for, elementary up to, middle school or something, and they'll respect that. But if there's nothing there, then they'll stand underneath the bucket and block a little, So I just think if we had some language like that, that would really help. Other than that, I'm 100% behind the direction that we're going, what Matt is proposing. I think it'll work. If we get those checkpoints, I think it'll work. But we can't do it later. We got to do it up front. Because once it start rolling, like the skate park, I've been up and let it close. Why not? Then we can turn those lights off. Let it open, let it close. I just think it's more safer that way. One time I brought a bag of things that I used to find in those bowls. I brought it and let people to the police department, let them see the kinds of things I was taking out that bowl. I know they say the lights on so we can have visibility. Well, ain't nobody ever coming out there, so what's good is the visibility? Give people to go out there and it's still open. So I think if we can look at that someday in the future, that's my last point. In the future, maybe when we do all this other things, it would be nice if we had that skate park a little bit more secured as well. And I know Girls Inc. will probably appreciate that a lot as well. But it would just give it an open and close. I think if we have simple, methodology here, open is closed, it's open, it's closed. Thank you for allowing me to come in today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Daniel.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Daniel.
Fran Palmersheim, 4437 Springfield. I'm president of the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. From what Matt had just said, I agree wholeheartedly that to put the splash pad off this year and go into some of the repairs that should be done out there to get that done and out of the way. I think we've already voted on demolition of the pool, have we not? Hasn't that been decided?
That was approved as a part of the CIP last year.
Okay. But I think we should proceed with that project as well. That keeps coming back all the time. Our mayor offered an organization an excellent deal to take over that pool at no cost. And they couldn't even take care of the maintenance. So there's no one that's going to be able to really maintain that. We know what it is to maintain those pools, and it's very, very expensive. You've got to abide by the state regulations. You've got to have it sealed, you've got to have it painted and all of those things, so it's quite expensive. But I think it'd be nice to get some of the improvements made out there in the park. From what Mr. Ford said, it'd be nice to have, when we end up having the splash pad, that park is for all ages, because there's so many different things. We got basketball, if we have football, if we have a splash pad, it's for everyone. As far as protection, I'll just mention here, about 2 weeks ago, I was down at Leif Erikson Park. There's some teenagers smashing up a picnic table. I did call the police. I took pictures, sent it to the police department. I also had the license number of the car and called that in. The next day, I happened to call back to see what they found out. And they said, well, they responded within 3 minutes of my call. Well, I was there for 15 and they weren't there during that 15, so I don't know 3 minutes of what call, but the police have a lot of territory to cover and a lot of things to do. But I think the citizenry also can take an active role in some of these things, If they see something that's wrong. I told these kids to get out of there. They smashed up the picnic table right by the restrooms there. And I said, get out of here, what are you doing? Well, what's it to you? And I said, well, this is park property. Everybody uses the park in the city, you know? So finally they left. They weren't too happy about the pictures, but the police department has all that stuff. But I think everybody has to do their part. The police department can't be everywhere. And I think the mayor mentioned one time a while back about what's our reserve, and I don't know anything about what the reserve is, whether or not they could be taking more of an active part. But I drive around to some of these parks in the evening and see what's going on. If it's something splash pad, if something needs attention, I send Matt an email on it. The last one I sent him, he was ahead of me. He already knew it. But, you know, we still got to do our part as citizens and not just come to a council meeting or not just complain about everything. We have to do something about it ourselves. I guess that's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I agree, thanks.
I believe Cindy Brewer with our park board, she's here today. She had a conversation with the police today that maybe she'd like to share some of that information.
Hi, I'm Cindy Brewer, and I live at 4723 Cambridge Court. I'm also on the Park and Rec Advisory Board. I was also there when we voted to do the splash pad because it's so hot out, and families and kids could have been out there today. But again, I try to always think, how can we resolve this as a group, as a city, as a, whatever. And I always go back to volunteers. I volunteer for a lot of things. Today I called Rita Donnelly, and she's in charge of volunteers for police service. She informed me there's like 180 volunteers out there. Some of the things they do is bike trails, trailblazers, handicap tickets. Of course, you probably all know this, Project Lifesaver. But they could be somebody that we could call or ask to help us to launch the splash pad at Cook Park. There's also other organizations that might help. Police, definitely, I understand it. They are busy and they are keeping us safe. So that might be something also. But let's get a splash pad down at Cook Park. That's what the people want. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just to clarify, though, it's not the council, other than a couple of weeks ago, you guys didn't even have plans to do a splash pad. Yeah, you weren't going to have one this summer no matter what.
Correct.
So I just want the public, because you allude to the fact that the council somehow is holding that up, and that's not the case. I want to make sure that the public understands you guys didn't have any plans up until a few weeks ago.
Correct. I mean, I went to the meeting in December here, and I just said, I wish.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was just a victim of the process with all the public input that we needed and did the survey that set the survey back, or the decision back, not anything that the city council did.
Gotcha.
And you know what, I think that we asked for maybe a week or two also to give it some thought, because the feedback that we got was negative. So we've had plenty of time to think about what we want to do. So, and I've had a lot of feedback on it myself, so I'm ready to move forward.
Do we have a motion? I'll move the item, Mayor.
Okay.
Well, and do we need to change the language? I was looking into that because does this specify that we want to do the updates of the futsal and the basketball court, and then, because then don't we need to also talk about what was brought up in the last time that we discussed this, the mayor talking about demolition of the pool so we can let the ground settle and really start with the splash pad next time? I mean, are these different motions? Is this going to have to come?
Yeah,
up
the
later?
motion in the RCA was to move forward with the splash pad project because that's what the park board had approved. So if you want to move forward with the futsal court, the basketball court demolition, it would have to be a different motion, and if the splash pad is somehow crafted into that as well.
Okay, because I thought it made more sense to, if we can get the futsal and the basketball courts completed this season, yeah, similar to what the mayor and other council members were talking about the last time we were up here, if we can get that done to a point that it's still utilized by the end of summer, maybe, you know, a month left in the summer or the season that it would be able to be utilized, and then we go forward with the splash pad next time. Because if we move forward with the splash pad now, even if you started tomorrow, we probably wouldn't be able to.
It'd be
open
spring,
it.
correct, yeah.
So I
So,
mean, I'd rather have some use and then say, okay, well, let's bid out that project.
so, yeah, the funds are there to do those improvements. We'd have to rebudget for the splash pad, and then we could move forward with that in the
Yeah.
spring,
And
correct.
that's what we said we were gonna do. So I guess I am confused. What is, because somebody just stood up and said that they supported that. Are we doing those this year and the splash pad next year? Or are we doing, trying to do the splash pad this year?
No, we would not do this, even if, like Alex said, even if we started, we would not be able to get the splash pad done this year anyway, so.
Because that's where I was just confused with the RCA and then what the motion should be, and, because it sounds to me then like we have to change the motion. We have
Correct.
to
The only
move what we
opportunity,
want to
Well,
change.
The actual RCA says to approve the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board recommendations, a recommendation for Cook Park improvements. So I'm assuming then your improvements are, what are you doing this summer? Anything yet?
the thing that was budgeted was the splash pad. Those other improvements were not budgeted.
Oh, okay, so
The
there's no
funds
money
are-
to,
Their funds are there, but it was budgeted for a splash pad, so we would just have to redirect those funds towards those other projects, and there would still be money left over.
then do you have to ask for money at the next budget hearing for
Correct.
the,
Yes.
pardon me?
Which he was going to do.
Oh, okay,
Which flips.
I was gonna do it the opposite way.
okay.
I think what needs to happen is a motion needs to be made to reallocate the splash pad funding for the other improvements.
Okay.
And do we need to talk about the demolition of the pool then now, or can we just say
That's
no?
budgeted, so it's up to you. I mean, if you proceed with a recommendation
Give notice.
tonight, then we will start that process with the demolition right away.
Hear this one?
So that issue has been addressed, so it depends on how
I
you
see
want to
no
craft the
problem with
motion.
that, because we might as well get it done if we got the dough.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Right.
For the demolition.
Right,
So I'll include that in my motion then.
yeah.
That'll make sense.
You include in the or you're moving then that we switch the two projects, we focus on the futsal and the basketball courts now, and the demolition of the pool.
Notwithstanding that your board hasn't discussed that specifically. Correct?
Correct. They haven't discussed it specifically, but they are supportive in general without any formal action.
Right.
Okay, so I'm gonna move it to,
No, Dan moved
oh,
it.
Yeah, I
okay,
just made that.
And
I just incorporated all of the
okay.
discussion.
So did
items.
you second it then?
Councilman Moore, can you restate the position just so we're clear for the record, for the recording?
Sure, we're going to reallocate the funds from the splash pad to construction of the basketball courts and the
futsal.
futsal. We're going to proceed with demolition of the pool. And then next year, in the budget process, we'll allocate funds for the splash pad.
So the motion is authorizing staff to proceed under those conditions.
Authorized, yes. Did I
We-
leave anything out?
No, I think that was right. The only other thing that I would say is we just need to make sure that if we demo that and have that there, that it's secure. You know what I mean? That's one thing I would worry about is you're gonna leave that demoed, I mean, over a couple seasons. Just, if we can just make sure of that, that's.
No.
Well, they'll fill it in
Yeah,
and,
they'll have to fill it in.
One season.
and try to plant grass, I assume.
Yeah, it'll be flat.
The pool we demoed, they'll fill it in with dirt, and they'll be required to bring it to a certain compaction.
Oh, okay.
And then that gives it all winter to settle, and then it's a lot easier to start on construction in the spring that way.
Okay.
Perfect.
And then the other thing I would just mention before we go to the full vote, but yeah, I think the motion was great the way we got it. Dan leaned over, and of course, this is a big mantra of ours, I feel like, and the council in general. Can we make sure we have some recycling receptacles out there as well?
Yes, sir.
Because I'm with you. There were 5 trash cans. They were all empty. They were there. It wasn't a lot of trash everywhere, but I don't see the recycling. Every time I see pictures of them, I send them to Matt. I'm like,
Yeah.
we need to be doing this. This is what I want.
We recently had a bunch of those recycling totes delivered at field services, so we just got to find places for them, and we can put some here.
And the big thing for me too is not only, I don't know if they're pink, and I think that universally, like you see that, oh, pink or blue or something like that, that use the recycling. I want it to say on the side at some point too, like for cans and bottles and what can go in there. So the people that don't regularly recycle at home know. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think that's important, especially in the public parks. So that's all I got, sorry. So I think there's well, you want a second?
I'll second. I thought you did.
Capron,
Aye.
Greckin.
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Scott.
Aye.
Waters.
Aye.
Any citizen concerns? Seeing none, we'll go to council concerns.
I'll pass for now. Reserve the right to add maybe later.
I'll second that.
Now in this chamber, once you pass. Moving on
You're on
without
the
you.
wrong side.
The House of Representatives.
I only have one thing. Dale Street Community Connection is having a block party on Saturday, and it's from 11 to 3, and everyone's invited. So I would encourage everybody to go out there and look at the splash pad and see how cool it is out there, and get excited about what we're doing, because the splash pads are going to be a big deal for us. So we appreciate everybody showing up. So it's Dale Street Park, 11 to 3, and it's a block party. So
When is it?
Saturday.
Is it this Saturday?
It's this Saturday, yep. You boys wear your swimsuits and Speedos and all that, and we'll be looking forward to
That'll
it.
clear the area out fast. Go ahead, Alex. Do you have anything?
You better believe it.
Dale
Oh,
Street,
Yeah.
Dale Street
Oh
Park
my
Saturday
goodness.
night.
Yep,
That
Saturday
would be
afternoon.
fun.
No, 11 to 3.
yeah. I bet.
Oh, 11 to 3.
It's
So a couple things that I would just say. Number one, to add on that, events coming up, the Rivercade Parade is going to be throwing out some beads as well. So I know I'm looking forward to that, and I hope to see a big showing for that.
What time's that start?
Knock on wood. What is it?
It's 5 o'clock now. It starts at 5 because they're combining everything and,
Well, that's the staging, isn't it?
I think
well, the
staging
staging
is
starts
5.
at 5. Yeah, I'm sorry.
And then the parade starts at 6 or
6,
something like
yeah.
that. Watch your local news stations. They do a good job letting us know, so I appreciate that. But no, looking forward to that. So please go, and hopefully the weather
And the
is
Journal, too.
cooperating.
Sorry,
They're a news outlet. I got you, Ian.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's one thing that I just wanted to give a shout out. The only other thing that I would say, as far as a concern that I had, was when we look at these planning and zoning recommendations, or the different things as far as like the alleyway. I had someone, and I didn't really get their name. I gave them my card and told them to follow up with me, and told them to follow up with P&Z. The only thing that I would say is I just get concerned when the meetings are at 4 o'clock. Because I think that sometimes their meetings of when you can come and petition or say, I don't agree with this, is at 4 o'clock. Do I have that wrong?
But they have a right, like I've got one on a property I own, and you have a right to write in.
Yes, and I encourage them to do that as well.
Jeff Hansen, Community Development Operations Manager. Yes, the Planning and Zoning Commission meetings are held the second and fourth Tuesday of every month at 4 o'clock in the chambers.
Yep. And Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that sentiment as well, that I encourage them to write. I said that was an opportunity, but it's like, if they can't make it to that meeting, they can't make it to this meeting. I mean, writing in, that is all they have, and I guess I think that they feel a little more heard, or like their voice and concern.
No, I agree.
Sure, and
so I'm just concerned about that. That was the first time someone just approached me in Hy-Vee and was like, hey, my mom lives next to that property and really is upset about it. And I said follow up, and I think it was on the agenda item today, and I never heard anything. I don't think there were any concerns brought up, so.
as far as the written comments, if we're aware that they're not able to make the meeting to present their comments, we do that for them and let the commission know that they weren't able to make it here. And so as long as they tell us that within their comments or within their voice calls, we'll let the commission know that they weren't able to hear to present their findings. A lot of times if we have individuals opposed to an alley vacation because they use it for access, a lot of the times staff actually recommends denial of those, because if the alleyway is being used for public access, and then we normally request the commission to deny that, and you see that too when it comes forward.
Okay. And I appreciate, I think staff does a good job of listening to the concerns of people and stuff like that. I just want to make sure that we are being as open and as inviting to public input, especially because I mean, I did this, I think this with a lot of government meetings, that I hate that it starts at 4 p.m. because your average person working a shift gets off at 5, and I want them to be a part of this process rather than outside of it. So it's something that I will definitely want to look into in the future, if we can change those meeting times or if that's necessary. But I just wanted to bring it up as a concern of mine, that I had someone that said that, and it's like, well, gosh, if those meetings are at 4 and this meeting's at 4, well, what do you do besides just writing in? So,
okay, thank you.
But something I think we should look into. Thank you.
Well,
Last week, I attended the meeting with staff on the Bridgeport West business owners, and I thought it was a good meeting. I think to sum up that meeting, they're looking for signals for traffic flow, and they're looking for signage for the detours. And I hope we can keep moving forward with that plan. And if not signals, then maybe some kind of, we need some kind of traffic control in the Bridgeport West area. I'm not sure what it's going to look like. And Dave, hopefully you can look at that and come up with a solution. But it's bad now, and it's just gonna get worse.
Yeah, that's kind of why I deferred. I wanted to give you a first shot, but we did talk about this at the Public Works meeting this afternoon before the regular council meeting, and I know the article. I was out of town last week, but I read the article in the paper, and there, businesses are upset about nothing being done with the infrastructure, and then they're talking about the traffic control issue. Now, I think Dave has information that will help clarify what's being done with the infrastructure part of it. I still am at, the big issue is that a temporary
signal
would not coordinate
would not be coordinated with the
permanent one that's there already.
And we're going to have a permanent signal there. That signal will be coordinated with the one on the off-ramp. Our concern, and so is the DOT's concern, is putting up a temporary traffic control. If that causing us to back up on the interstate, is a much worse situation than congestion at the Harbor Singing Hills intersection. If right now we have backups in the morning when people are coming into the Bridgeport area for work because they have free flow access after they get off the interchange. If we have a signal, I'm not sure what the distance is, a half mile down the road, and that signal is now red and causing them to back up and not allowing the traffic when it's getting off the interstate to keep flowing in the afternoon hours, we could be creating, instead of just the 15 minutes in the morning when we're getting traffic backing up on the interstate, we could start to create backups during other times of the day onto the interstate, which is a far worse situation than
I don't think it's
intersection that we're
quite
having.
a half a mile, but it's
a short.
It's a couple of blocks, but the issue, the traffic control in general. I mean, in listening, and I know it's a big issue for businesses, and knowing that within a couple of months, maybe less than that, there could be 1,000 new employees down there. Not to mention all the businesses that exist and have been there for a long time and have contributed greatly to the community. We need to have some kind of plan in place in the event they can't handle it on their own. Hopefully people go south, some of them, and it kind of splits it up. I know there's a meeting tomorrow at the chamber. I saw the email on that. The businesses are gonna meet to discuss staggering their shifts, and maybe that'll help. But I find it hard to believe that if we're going to get 1,000 new employees, probably doesn't mean 1,000 new cars, probably means at least half of that, but maybe close to 1,000. We need to have some kind of plan in place.
But traffic signal is not going to change your congestion problem. You're still going to have that same number of cars going through that intersection.
You'll still have backup on the interstate, and that is a dangerous situation.
And that's in the morning.
And if you've ever been on the interstate anywhere in the country and you come on backup traffic, it's very dangerous. And so if we do nothing, it's dangerous. If we do temporary signals, you're saying it's still dangerous. But we got to do something. We got to do better than saying it won't work, it won't work.
Well,
I want to find something that's going to work that will address. They had two simple. They wanted two simple things. They wanted signals for traffic control, and they want signage so that the truck drivers will know where they're going. And, I hope they go south too, but you don't.
No,
I
agree.
They're going to go the shortest distance, the quickest way that they possibly can.
Yeah.
And so that's what I want to see.
After the discussion about traffic signals, I'm still concerned that we need something in place. So when that first week happens and we have, a lot of issues to deal with, What can we do? So maybe the police department needs to get involved in directing traffic. Now, I don't think it's a situation that they can just, personally, where they could assign somebody, the district officer, to go down there at that 45-minute or 30, 45-minute period in the morning, and then in the afternoon. I think it's going to have to be something that, because, as you know, they get calls for service at any given time and may not be available. Somebody's got to have the sole responsibility of being there in the morning and in the evening. And I don't know.
But you've got to figure out where it's at first, because
Right.
1,000 people don't go to work at the packing house at 6 o'clock.
No, I agree.
Kill comes in, cut comes in, the cleaning comes in. It's not everybody there at the same time. They got to, in a packing house, that time frame may be an hour and a half from when the first employee gets there and they'll go out the door the same way.
Well, I heard him talking about staggering shifts by 30 minutes. Now, that didn't seem like to be enough time to me, but I don't know that.
Well, I don't know either. I'm just saying that in a packing house, it isn't like 1,000 people get there and go to work, because you've got to kill.
We don't need 1,000 more. That's what they're saying down there. That's why they're frustrated.
There's already an issue.
Yeah, there's already an issue that we have to somehow, and I don't know what the answer is either, Dave. And I know you guys are working hard to find a solution, but I want to find a solution, because it's already a
But I mean,
problem.
that's what I'm saying, is just throwing up a traffic signal isn't gonna make that solution, that solve that problem. I don't know where that concept comes up, that if I put a traffic signal, suddenly I'm gonna be able to get through this intersection no time flat. You're still trying to put X number of cars through that intersection in a short period of time, and they gotta all take their turns.
But the issue here is, I think traffic signals would work, but the issue here is that you can't coordinate those two, right?
Yeah, without them being coordinated, like I said.
Coordinated when we put them on Hamilton, but go ahead.
Well, it got there eventually, I think.
Go there tonight, I want to get out of here.
It got there eventually.
The worst thing I don't want to do is take our problem that we're having at the intersection of Harbor and Singing Hills and move it out onto the interstate. Because that would be, to me, a much worse situation.
I agree. I guess my argument totally is.
Well, if a guy stood there.
Isn't it?
Yeah, if a guy stood there.
Reasonable, wouldn't a reasonably prudent person have a plan in place and maybe have the expectation that it's going to be difficult adding all those extra cars?
I think when we're starting up, we're going to have people
So we
on
need to
site,
do something to, and maybe the cops don't need to go down there.
No, I think
maybe the first week we wing it. I don't know. But there's got to be, you can't wait until then to make a plan.
You're going to have to observe it for the first week or so.
Well, you can't observe it. You better have police officers there the first.
Well, that's what I'm saying
week, and you better have them ready to direct traffic, even if it means overtime. There's no way
I agree.
around it.
I agree. And that's probably what it'll take, but that will help too.
And we are going to try to, if we have all the documents back by the 26th, we will award the contract on a special meeting on the 31st.
Yeah, thank you for that.
So but it all, like I said, it all depends on, we need to have the signed contract documents back from the contractor, and we need to have DOT concurrence before we can move forward by the 26th.
And I really appreciate that. Yeah, you've explained that. Thank you.
As I mentioned to Councilmember Gretkin, will also reach out to the sheriff's posse to inquire about their ability to. Yes, we will.
But let's keep moving ahead here.
You will be.
Thanks, Bob. Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Alex, you asked me today, can a reserve officer arrest? Reserve peace officers shall have as peace officers on the orders or at the discretion of the chief, of the sheriff, the commissioner of public safety, blah, blah, blah. The same duties as any other peace officer, if they're certified.
Isn't there two classes of reserve officers?
I just said if they're certified. They have 18 certified officers over there.
Yeah. But my point is, the certification, to be certified to do that, they have to take the same curriculum that they teach in the Iowa Law Enforcement Academy, and it's
expensive.
Well, it's 11 weeks long, I think, or 12 weeks long, and they'll do it over the course of 2 years to get certified, probably, because they're doing it.
I said if they're certified, they have 18 of them, to answer your question.
Yeah.
Can I add one more thing? Happy birthday, Pete.
It's not my birthday.
It is tomorrow. It's only hours away.
How many will that be, Pete? You want to tell everybody?
I would be glad to tell you. It'll be 68.
A young guy.
And I know. Thank you.
Our historian.
Happy birthday.
2.5 times older than Alex.
I move we adjourn. Oh, wait. Nicole has asked for the floor for just 1 minute. Go
I
ahead.
just want to wish my grandmother, Betty Jensen, a happy 90th birthday today.
Oh, well, happy
birthday.
birthday to Betty. That's far more important, and I hope to get there one day.
Alex is wanting
Now
to
we'll
say-
go for adjournment.
Second.
Second.
Greckin,
Aye.
Moore,
Aye.
Aye.
Waters.
You have to go to free council.
Are we going in the conference room?
Yeah, we're going to